Okay, so good morning or good day, everybody. Whenever you're watching this, I'm very delighted this morning to be able to introduce you to my friend and a graduate and client of mine, Clare Troy, who is the creatrix, I've just made that word up for you, Clare, of Divine Light Essences. So Clare is a graduate of the Essentially Flowers Diploma in Flower and Vibrational Essences. And today we're going to be chatting essences and how they have helped Clare in her own personal life and also for your healing business. So thank you for being here, Clare.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Thanks for inviting me on, Sarah.
So would you like to tell everybody a little bit more about you?
Yeah, sure. So I'm living in Dublin, Ireland. I completed the diploma in 2018 and 2019. Previously, I'd done a lot of training in energy therapies. I'm a trained craniopsychotherapist, and I think the flower essence diploma was I suppose the missing link that kind of filled a few gaps that I didn't even realize were missing, and just brought a lot of things together. I work mostly with in the past, actually, I worked a lot with children. When I was doing craniopsychotherapy in person, I was working mostly with children. But actually, since I did the diploma, I'm now working mostly with women, helping women to come back into balance, to balance their masculine and feminine energies, and to, I guess, put themselves first, and to start, to help them live the lives and live their own potential rather than other people's.
Wow. Absolutely. Yeah. Super cool work. So what is so interesting about what you said at the beginning there, because I hear it, I think many of us in the flower essence world, we're kind of like, we know what essences do because we know that our lives have changed, but it's so hard to actually say what they do. But a common thread is this integration piece. And very often people who come into the diploma are very well experienced healers and who have lots of different strings to their bow, all of which are amazing.
Yeah, because I think what I found, I came in, as you know, I came in because I had a very strong calling to create a range of essences. I think it was 2017, actually, I received an invite from Spirit to create essences, which I never thought, I was ever going to do. And I really wanted to honor that, but I just didn't know how to bring that out into the world. And that was the reason I initially joined the diploma. But what I think what I discovered the more I worked with the essences was that even though I had done, I'd literally been working on myself for about 15 years continuously before that, I'd gone to the depths, the craniosacral training in particular really does bring you very deep. But there were places within myself that, within my physical body and my emotional body that I just hadn't been fully able to access. I could get to a certain level, and then I just couldn't seem to really, get to the root of it. And the essences, really quickly actually helped me to get there. So things like anger, a lot of us are not really brought up to be able to feel anger or deal with anger. And, we just don't know how to process it. It's not really looked on as a good emotion to experience. So, I had anger in my system, and it was causing me a lot of physical pain. And taking essences really helped me. And it was like I was able to skirt around it, but I just couldn't really, get into it on a cellular level. And taking the essences was just, I was able to release it in really gentle ways. And, then the physical issues I'd had for about 20 years at that point started to dissipate.
Wow.
So that was really interesting.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because everything is energy, isn't it? Everything. So, and obviously many of us, well, not obviously, but we're multi-dimensional beings, aren't we? And so often we have to access things at all different levels, don't we? So we may be taking care of the physical on some levels, and we're probably connected spiritually, but bringing in the emotional part is key, really bringing it in.
Yeah. I think as well, what I found is, I've done a lot of work in the past around birth trauma and in my craniosacral practice, and even actually still today, people that come to me, would have experienced birth trauma or womb, things happening in the womb time. And that's when we're preverbal and we don't have necessarily the words to express, or even, cognitively, we don't really know what's happened. And that can be the same with ancestral things.
Mm.
And so you can go to, therapies and things like that and not really be able to access it in the same way that you can if you take the essences, and the essences are able to just, I think they're just able to connect with it and help you connect with it on a level that, nothing else I've experienced has.
I love that we're actually able to start to see what essences can do, because most people, and of course this is how probably you and I began as well, we began taking essences, we got them from the local chemist or pharmacy, and we looked up in a repertory, oh, I'm anxious, or oh, I'm depressed, and we picked out the essence and it helped. I can remember knowing that it helped, but it's not really the way that we get really aligned with what's going on, is it, when it's kind of like an external choice? So can you tell us a little bit about how taking essences over a long period of time, and of course you've continued now because you know how to do it, you know how to take care of yourself, you know how to heal yourself emotionally, can you share with us how it felt to actually take a journey with essences and really stay present with yourself over a period of time, and how that changed your experience of your life?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is about, committing to a journey over a long period of time. It changes, creates that container so that your body knows, and yourself on every level knows, that you have this time, you have the support, you have an amazing team of people between yourself. Sharon was my flower buddy, Barbara doing the workbooks, and then everyone else who was on the diploma at the time. Some people were ahead of me, some people then came in after me. So we had all of that, holding and support. So I think it's like when you make a decision like that and you have that energy is set up for you. Your body knows it's safe to go to places that, if I just decide today, oh, I'm feeling, grief or something, I'll take an essence. That might alleviate it for a day or a few days or a week or something. But really to get to the root of things, trauma and built up emotions and, all that kind of thing happens over a long period of time. We have our own lifetimes of stuff. We have our ancestral things. We might have past life things impacting us. So it's all things that have happened over a very long period of time. And there are no quick fixes. I think that's, the one thing, maybe at the start of my journey, when I was in my 20s or early 30s, I thought there might have been a silver bullet and something, would magically just heal me. But, I've realized, the body needs time and it needs to feel safe to heal. And so when you put yourself into this container of something like, a 2-year course, it, gets that. And then you have the time to go through the steps that you need to go through. So, you can release the emotions gradually. And that's one of the things with the diploma is it works up through the chakras. So it's, done in a very conscious way as well, and gradual. So that, there's I suppose, a template there to work through. You're not kind of just, left to your own devices. There's an actual process to work through, which I found really helpful because I could see, month on month what was happening. I was going through, and actually I was, just because it was a few years ago, I had to, just look back on my workbooks over the last few days to see, just to remember, to remind myself, what the process had been. And it was actually, uncanny or how things in my life lined up with what, with the module of the diploma I was in. I'd kind of forgotten things like that, where, something, if I was taking an essence for the solar plexus, the spinach essence, which is all around, fun, some of it's around, it's a very childlike essence and can bring out a lot of fun and laughter. And I remember like at the time I was in India, and I was with very, Indian people. I work with Indian people a lot, and there's like an innocence or a childlike quality, and there's a lot of fun there. So things like that happened, during each of the modules, where it was quite, I was just laughing over the last few days when I saw, the synchronicities that had happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, I went from, as you say, randomly taking essences as I felt, looking at a repertory. And then the way we work in the diploma is you teach us how to work intuitively, to connect with maybe the photo or the image of the essence, and to connect on that level rather than from the mind. And my other job is very analytical and quite masculine based. So it was really refreshing for me to come in, and because I am very intuitive naturally.
Mm-hmm.
It was really nice for me to come in and to maybe not completely ditch the repertories, because I do, I like to read and to know what the essence are about, but to really feel, when you look at the essence, and to really feel the connection with the photo. And I myself, I've had healings, and some of my clients have as well, just by looking at the photo, without even taking the essence. I've had things shift in the field, or things come to my awareness.
Absolutely. And it's the kind of thing you have to experience, doesn't it? And it was a very innocent sharing for me of when I first started, introducing materials. And then I started watching how when people just saw photographs, they would cry, or something would just shift out of their field. It was really quite extraordinary. And I started to see just how present the nature kingdom is for us.
Yeah.
And how accessible it is to our energy system as well. And how powerful and profound it can be. But it needs our connection. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It needs our connection, and it needs our commitment. So in a world where we are, and we're all like it, we're kind of like, we want things now, don't we? And the silver bullet thing. I mean, me too. I remember it actually happened for me with the Louise Hay. I got hold of one of Louise Hay's very first books. This was a long time ago. And I thought very innocently that by standing in front of the mirror and telling myself I love myself, everything would all of a sudden, and little did I know that was just my entry in.
Yeah.
And then I needed to do the work. So what would you, I don't know what is it, if there's anything to say, but it's hard sometimes to think, oh my goodness, that's going to take me all of that time.
Yeah, I think it's like anything, it would have been better to start, 10 years ago or 5 years ago, but it's better to start today or to start now than it is in a year or 2 years. Like, no matter which route you take on your healing journey, it's going to take time. And if you really want to transform, if you want to change, if you want to, bring new things into your life and give yourself the best possible chance and the highest potential, it needs commitment, it needs dedication.
Yeah.
And, it's better to, if you're serious about doing it, it's better to start now than in 5 years, because in 5 years you still, if you don't go through the process, you'll still be the same as you are now.
It is. I mean, that's kind of a truth bomb thing to say, isn't it? But it is where the potential of essences lie, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I look back on my life and some of the things I've been through, and I wish I had the awareness and the knowledge of essences. From childhood really, but definitely, from my, through my 20s and my 30s, I wish I had I'd had the support, because they've definitely, looking back, between how things were and how things are now, I guess, stuff still happens in life. There's always going to be the stuff happening, but I think I'm more resilient now. I'm quite sensitive to energies. It's probably one of the biggest differences I've noticed is I'm not as impacted as I was before.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I'm not impacted at all, but I suppose I have the tools now where I can recover myself quicker, or I can prepare myself as well. And yeah, I'm just a lot more resilient. My energy field is a lot more resilient.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It's your gift. Your gift is to have that connection and empathy and level of sensitivity. Is a gift.
Absolutely, yeah.
And we don't want to, you would not want, well, we can't take it away from you. But what often happens is that whatever it is that we find difficult in life, we don't see it as a gift. It's because we're not taught like that. So for me, it was levels of anxiety, just like stress and resistance to feeling my feelings and all of those things. And so what I think is really beneficial for us to just acknowledge here is that we all have these gifts. And often we, like yourself, it's like, I don't know how to live in this world with this sensitivity. So what we tend to do, and I don't know how you did, if this is true for you, Claire, but we kind of dim it down. We shut it off somehow.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think I did really dim it down because I didn't really know how. But I lived in a lot of overwhelm, and it was extremely difficult for me. God, I look back, going into a shopping center, going into the office, if they put an extra broadband booster in the office, it crippled me. Anywhere where there were, lots of people, or maybe if I went into an area where there was something in the land that would, or the solar flare would just knock me over. It was hard. It was extremely hard for me to live, and I did kind of, I suppose I was more reactive then. So, then I'd be forced into taking time off. I burnt out a few times. I'd be forced into, taking time off. Whereas now, I suppose the other thing with the, the journey was, I always did love nature, and I did try to get into nature as much as I could. But now it's an absolute requirement. It's kind of, like sleeping and eating. It's just like, I absolutely need it. I know that, for me to have a healthy nervous system and a healthy energy field and body and emotions, I need my time in nature.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things that the Essence journey brought me, was back into, I suppose, because I'd already been on a journey of, balancing the masculine and the feminine within myself. Because I've been working in, I suppose my whole life I've been in the masculine. And pretty soon, I think it was, when we got to the sacral chakra on the journey, I was really taken, into the feminine, and really realized, I suppose the pendulum had been so far to one side of the masculine that it had to swing back to the feminine. Yeah. So for a long time then, I just needed a lot of time to do nothing and to just be, and to come out of the whole doing and the pushing and the striving.
Yeah.
And I needed to go to that extreme for a while before I could come back to balance again. Yeah. But that, that was one of the big things, the essences that I found, through the diploma, because we look at 12 different ranges of essences, and there were just so many essences that were able to support me in, in helping me to embody the feminine energies again.
That's so interesting how you experience that, because it's in hindsight, isn't it, that we often see actually what happened, and is that you hung around for a while in those energies, and we do tend to see that in people taking the diploma. So yeah. I think any of them should watch this. It will be really helpful for them as well.
And life, life as well, I think, cooperated, because, during that time, I was actually contracting, and whatever way my contracts were working, they ended in the summers. So, you know, for the time, for the period I was in the diploma, I actually had the summers off. I was able to take time off during the summers, which, you know, I haven't been able to do before or since, really. So, you know, I was given that time to just be, and to be in nature, and to go and create essences. And it was very magical, actually.
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, it makes sense, doesn't it, that when we make the commitment to work with nature, because she is ready and waiting for us, that then she would conspire, if you like, because I've witnessed this myself. It is a bit kind of out there how the universe rearranges itself.
Yeah.
With very 3D events.
Yeah.
Which, and there's kind of lots of them. Yeah. So we have a lovely person listening to us and saying thank you. So we'll come and greet you afterwards. Thank you for being here. So what I would love to share, I'd love you to share, Claire, is you speaking about, you know, your beautiful gift of empathy and sensitivity, how it used to be present in your life through massive overwhelm and not coping and burnout and all of those depletion of your energy system. I'm sure lots of people listening will completely get that. It's called modern life. And how you came into the diploma in part because you were called to make a range of essences. And those range of essences now help people with the very thing that you were struggling with. So what I'm really wishing to acknowledge for you and for anybody else that's listening is that our struggles are often our medicine, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're our gift. And how lovely that you have now taken all of your learnings and packaged them, for want of a better word, into your own work, helping women access the feminine through your own divine light essences. So that it's kind of like that's where you were, and this is where you are now. So although the diploma is not in any way a business program, we see so often women and a few men too coming out at the end, knowing what their gifts are and knowing how to share them.
Yeah, and I think, you know, for myself, and I know a lot of other people, it's, you know, that question of, you know, what am I here to do? You know, we get to a point in our life where we start to think about, you know, wanting to make a difference in the world and to do something, you know, really worthwhile with our lives. And knowing that, you know, we all have come to do something, whether it be to be a mother or to be a teacher, or, you know, there might be, you know, whatever it is, doesn't really matter what it is, but it's to find that thing. And, you know, when you're doing it, then I think it, you know, it makes that difference to your life, where you feel like, you know, you're doing what you're meant to do. And, you know, it could be anything. It doesn't need to be spiritual, you know, it could be literally anything, just as long as you're doing, you know, that piece that you came to do. It might not even be a job. It might be, you know, just that, you know, you've come to be somewhere specific on the earth or something like that. But I think, you know, one of the things I see a lot is people just trying to connect with what that thing is. And again, you know, there are lots of essences, like in the Bach system, it's the wild oat. There's a good few in the Alaskan essences that help to clarify that and help to connect with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, it doesn't really come like in a big moment of revelation, but it's like something that kind of happens over time. And then you might just realize someday, oh, I'm doing it, or this, you know, this is it.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, yeah. And yeah, thank you, Claire, for talking about that, because I completely understand what you're saying, and you've shared it so beautifully, and you're a very beautiful example of all of this. So thank you for allowing other people to witness your journey as well. Because we're at a time on our planet, aren't we, when being who we are and standing up in our own sovereignty is huge, you know, and no matter who we are or what our beliefs are, if it's going to come and find us. And thank goodness.
Yeah.
So we have this beautiful tool to support us very gently. Yeah. So is there, I think we've really talked about your own journey, and you've explained it really well about how it was before you came in and how you're feeling now, how you've birthed I say part of, because I'm sure there's more to come of your life work.
Yeah. I think I'm told I have about 10% done. It's like, or that I'm conscious of about 10% of it, and the rest of it, I just don't know what it is yet.
Well, I think a lot of the time, and it is the times we're moving in, there's an element of infusion of it. It doesn't always need words.
Yeah.
It's not always about how the head sees it. Yeah. So is there anything else that you are called to share before we say goodbye?
I think for anyone who's thinking about doing the diploma and they aren't sure, it's like, go into nature and spend time in nature, because ultimately, when I made the decision, as you know, Sarah, it was the snowdrops that told me, I'd been hemming and hawing for a while, and, is this the right time? I really, in my heart, I knew I wanted to do it, but it was like, oh, is this the right time? And, my head getting in the way. And then I was just with the snowdrops in that February, and just got a really clear message. Just do it. And I did have to, just take my head out of it. So, I would highly recommend the journey to anyone who's, who even has an inkling. It's just so supportive. And, you have, with the 12 ranges of essences and all the support, you have tools, for the rest of your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
For any scenario, I think that was one of the things when I was started the diploma, I knew about maybe 4 or 5 ranges of essences. Some of which weren't really accessible to me at the time. I just didn't know where to go and get essences outside of, one shop in Dublin.
It does. It opens up a whole world, doesn't it? It was like that for me. It was like, that world is out there. It's like
there's literally an essence for everything.
Yeah, absolutely. There is. Yeah. Thank you so much, Claire. It's been a real pleasure sharing your journey with you in this way. And those of you who have watched live or who are watching via the replay, please do send some love to Claire for sharing her journey. We'd love to connect with you in that way. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, everyone.
May your next many years be beautifully connected to nature.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.